Good morning, Round Lakers. It is Thursday, April 9th, and here is the pledge. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remember, boys and girls, that tomorrow is Friday, April 10th, and there is no school, so I will not be doing the pledge tomorrow morning or our daily read aloud. But I have one for today, and it is called Willy's Stories. It is a 4.1 reading level, and the author is Anthony Brown. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is a long one, so be patient. Every week, I walk through these doors and something incredible happens. I go on amazing adventures. Come with me and I'll show you. One day I went through the doors and found I was shipwrecked with the captain's dog on a desert island. I could see no one else there, and apart from a friendly parrot, I was all alone. I walked by the sea looking for signs of life, but I never saw anything. Then one day, I knew it was a Friday, as I had been marking days on a calendar. I saw a footprint in the sand. I froze as if I'd seen a ghost. I looked around and up and down the beach. I listened, but I could hear nothing and see nothing. I checked to see if I had imagined the footprint. I sometimes do imagine things, but there it was, the exact shape of a foot in the sand. But I was sure there was no else on the island. I was stunned. Whose footprint do you think it was? Another time, when I went through the doors, I found I was a sailor on board a ship. The crew was looking for treasure. We had a map, and the treasure was supposed to be hidden on an island. I was hungry and climbed into an apple barrel. Yes, that's right, to get an apple. As I hid inside the barrel, I heard a sailor named Long John Silver whispering to some of his shipmates, telling them that as soon as the treasure had been found, they would kill the captain and the officers and keep the treasure for themselves. Then he told one of the crew to get him an apple from the barrel. Well, you can imagine how terrified I was. I wanted to jump out of the barrel and run, but I was too scared. I heard the sailor walking toward the barrel, and what do you think happened next? Another day, I went through the doors and into the countryside. I needed to cross a stream, but I had my best clothes on and didn't want to get them wet. And then I saw a jolly-looking priest eating a pie, so I asked him if he would carry me over the water. "What?" he bellowed. "A pathetic little wimp like you dares to ask me, Friar Tuck, to carry you across?" He paused, and then his anger seemed to pass and his little eyes twinkled. "But why not?" he said. "Surely I can be merry too. I could help you, even though you are such a miserable creature." The friar tucked up his robe and bent down. "I think," he said with a smile, "your sword will get wet. Let me put it under my arm next to mine." I climbed onto his back, and Friar Tuck stepped into the water and waded out while I clung on for dear life. I did not want to fall into the water. When he reached the middle of the stream where the water was deepest, he stopped and began to laugh, and I felt myself begin to slip from his back. Can you guess what happened next? One time I went through the doors and found myself in a forest where I met an old woman. "Good evening, dearie," she said. "You look like a brave little soldier. I need some help. You see this tree here?" "Yes," I said. "This tree is hollow. If you climb up to the top, you'll see a hole down the trunk." "What do I have to do down in the tree?" I asked. "If you look down the hole, you'll see a box at the bottom. It's called a tinder box, and my grandfather left it there especially for me. I want it. I really want it. If I tie a rope around you, you'll be able to slide down to the bottom and pick up the box, and I'll pull you back up when you call." I wanted to help her, so I climbed up the tree and looked down the dark hole. It was very deep and very dark. I don't think I can do it," I said. "If you get me the tinderbox, I'll give you a lot of money. You'll be rich," she shouted. I didn't know what to do. If you had been me, what would you have done? I went through the doors one day and was on a pirate ship face to face with a terrible pirate named Captain Hook. For a long time, we just stared at each other. Then Hook cleared his throat and said, "Proud and insolent youth, prepare to meet their doom." He lunged at me with his sword. I jumped aside, and a terrible fight began. We fought with our swords all over the ship, and then he came at me with his great metal hook, swinging it, and his sword together. Every sweep could have cut me in half, but I dodged him, dancing around as if blown about by the wind. At last we came to a stop, exhausted, and Hook looked at me with a strange expression. "Who and what art thou?" he cried, exasperated. "I'm youth, I'm joy," I answered. "I'm the boy who won't grow up." It was all nonsense, of course, but something very strange happened next. What do you think it was? One time I went through the doors, and I know it sounds crazy, I felt myself falling down a dark, deep hole, a rabbit hole. It was so deep that I had time to look around as I fell. The walls were covered with shelves full of curious objects, and I grabbed at one as I tumbled down. After such a fall as this, I said to myself, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. Down, down, down I went. Would this fall never end? Suddenly, with a whoosh and a thump, I landed on a heap of dry leaves. But I wasn't hurt, and I jumped to my feet. It was dark, and as my eyes got used to the dim light, I saw a figure with big ears hurrying down a long passage and turning a corner. I could swear it was a white rabbit. It looked at a pocket watch and then hurried on. I ran after it around the corner, and then, what do you think I saw? The next week, when I went through the doors, I found myself in a small gray room. There was a smelly little dog, and through the window, the sky was very dark. The wind wailed and whistled. The dog broke wind and crept under the bed. All of a sudden, the room shook so hard that I fell over. I felt the whole building whirling about as it started to rise up in the air. The wind howled horribly, but after a while, I began to feel as if I was being rocked gently, like a baby in the cradle, and in spite of the swaying of the house and the wailing of the wind, I closed my eyes and fell asleep. I was woken by a huge bump as the house landed on the ground. It wasn't dark anymore, and a bright sunshine flooded through the window. I looked out and saw a yellow brick road stretching miles ahead. Walking along, coming toward me, were some of the strangest little people I had ever seen. Do you want to find out who they were? Another time I went through the doors and found myself in a forest. I heard a voice singing beautifully in the distance and walked toward it. What creature could make such a lovely sound? I came to a tower and walked around it looking for a door, but there was none. How peculiar. I saw a glistening rope hanging down from the top of the tower that looked as if it were made from golden hair. If that's the only way to get in, I thought, I'll climb up it. I was desperate to see who was singing, so I started to climb the silky rope. At first it was quite easy, But when I looked down to see how far I'd come, I was frightened. It was a very long way down. What if I were to fall? Then the beautiful voice began again. I just had to find out who was singing. So I carried on with my climbing. Higher and higher I went, full of doubts and worries. What was this silken rope? What if it were a trap with a horrible witch at the top? I had to go on. I had to see who was there. And when I got to the top, who do you think I found? One afternoon, I went through the doors and into a wildwood. It was both scary and exciting. Twigs crackled under my feet, and fallen branches tripped me up. Then the faces appeared. I saw a strange little face looking at me from a hole. Quickly it vanished. I began to hurry, but another face appeared, and then another. I wished my friends Mr. Toad and Ratty were with me. Then the whistling began, faint at first, and far away. I went faster and heard the whistling again. This time it was ahead of me. Night was closing in. What could I do? And then the pattering started. It had a regular, sinister rhythm, like the pat, pat, pat of little feet. But was it in front of me or behind me? The sounds grew louder, and the whole wood now seemed to be running, chasing, hunting, closing in on me. I began to run and saw a hollow in a tree to hide. I crawled inside, panting and trembling with fear, listening to the noises outside. I knew I'd found that awful thing I had been told about, the terror of the wild wood. Was I in danger? What do you think was chasing me? Last week, I went through the doors and found myself swimming in a calm sea when an enormous sea monster suddenly rose up in the water and came right at me. Terrified, I swam as fast as I could, but it came nearer and nearer. I tried to dodge and get out of its way, but I felt the great gulping jaws sucking me toward it. Of course, I was too slow. The monstrous creature swallowed me greedily, and I was swept into its stomach, where I fell unconscious. When I came around, I had no idea where I was, but it was pitch black and there was no sound at all. I tried to be brave, but I was too frightened. Help! Will someone please come and rescue me? But no one did. I had to help myself. In the distance, I saw a dim light and moved toward it. I walked and walked through the creature's body until at long last I reached the light and saw the strangest thing. What do you think it was, and who do you think I found? You'll never guess. Not in a million years. Next time, why don't you come with me on my travels? Or better still, why not go on some of your own? I can't wait for my next adventure. And that, my friends, is the end of my story. That was a long one, I know. But I hope you had a chance to use your imagination and think of what stories you might have heard that sounded familiar. So once again, the name of the book is called Willy's Stories by Anthony Brown, reading level 4.1. Have a great day, boys and girls, and a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. Bye.